run wire with your hooks, or do you run leader straight down for your whole rig?
Oh no, I don't. No, it's always that section from the hook to underneath the lure head is definitely always wire, because you see how straight it is. It sits straight. It's perfectly balanced and it's nice. And all nylon rigs are kinked to the side and they fray. And if you get toothy critters, you're going to lose your lure. If you hook a decent marlin, even in Portland, one of these days it's going to happen. It's going to wear through the leader if you've got nylon behind the lure head. Certainly it's an absolute no-no. Don't do it. Just use wire. The wire you use isn't really that important. The thicker you can use, the better, because it acts like a bit of a keel and it's easier to crimp. The wire we use on all the big rigs, it's 2mm wire, and on all our small rigs like that, it's 1.6, and I don't use anything thinner than 1.6 wire. Okay. Also the wire, if you do kink it like that, if it does get a kink in it, it's pretty quick to straighten out and you can get it dead straight very quickly, and it's usable again. You can't do that with nylon. And just the way nylon hangs in the water, it does cause the lures to spin. The hookup rate's not great, and it's just not the right system. Certainly if you're just starting out trolling lures, you're better off buying your rigs until you learn how to make them, and just basically have a look at the ones you buy and then make the same ones from then on. I haven't seen any rigs of nylon that I would personally use at all, ever, in 50 years. Okay. If you were just fishing for striped tuna, you could just tie a hook onto the nylon and go for it. But apart from that, no, it's always wire every time.
Is it, do you ever use nylon coated wire, or is it always uncoated?
No, it's not nylon coated. It's straight 49 strand stainless 316 wire, basically from ship's chandlers. There's no reason to use nylon coated wire. In fact, nylon coated wire is not really a good idea at all, once again, especially if you're fishing for marlin, and also the same reason why you don't really want nylon. Okay, once again we've got that jawbone. See, I don't know if you can see it where you are, but that jawbone is like 80 grit sandpaper, or even coarser. It's like 40 grit sandpaper. That can hang on to absolutely anything. And if you ever see a dead marlin, grab yourself a lure, put it in the jaw, a dead one, and just use your hands to close the jaw with hand tightness, and try and pull the skirt through it. You can't. Put a nylon leader in there, try and pull it out. You can't. Put nylon coated wire in its jaw just with the hand tightness, not the couple of 100 kilos pressure it's actually got, and you can't pull the nylon coated wire through it. So basically it stops you hooking the fish the first time the fish bites down on the lure. With wire, you actually can pull the wire through the fish's jaw with the drag settings you're using. Okay, so you know, even with a pair of pliers, you can hold that with a pair of multi-grips, and you can slide it through. Everything else you can hold with multi-grips. It's squashed there. And what happens is the fish closes its mouth, goes for a 200-yard run, opens its mouth, and you think, beauty, I can hook it then. By then, you've got 200 yards of nylon out there with all the associated stretch. You've lost all the violence to hook the fish. You're not going to hook it. The point might go in for about 15 seconds. Fish jumps and spits the hook and fight's over. So that's the reasoning behind it, apart from the fact that the lures spin. Okay? Have I convinced you yet?
Yeah.
All right.
What leaders do you run and how long are they?
Okay, the whole purpose... These are good questions, thank you. There might be a prize for the dumbest question, but all of these are really good questions. Okay, a skirted lure is designed to slide away from the rig so it can't be used as a pendulum as the fish is thrashing around to throw the lure. That's why these lures slide down. That's why they're different to bib lures and spinners and stuff like that. Okay? So it can't be used as a pendulum. That lure should be allowed to slide away the length of the fish you intend to catch. So as a reasonable guide, for small black marlin, a leader of 7 foot, for southern bluefin tuna 7 or 8 foot, for striped marlin around about 12 foot, for blue marlin around about 17 foot, and that's your leader lengths. Okay? Does that answer that question? Yep. Okay, as for leader thickness, there's a really important consideration with that. I'll just find a video, if you can just give me a sec. Well, I've got it written. Okay, this is 50-pound fluorocarbon doing 4 knots, and you can sort of see all the bubbles coming off the leader trail, and we call that the leader trail. That does look like a school of little bait fish, and as the angle changes you can see those little glitters, those little sparkles do look like bait fish. So what we don't want to happen, is we don't want the fish to mistake the leader for something it can eat. So we actually want to have the leader less vibration and less movement than the lure. So we end up with a maximum size leader that each approximate lure can run. Now, for example, these little Uzis, 100-pound leader is fine. If you're using a 100-pound leader, the fish will eat the lure and not the leader. If we put 300-pound leader on this lure, then the fish is going to eat the leader every time, particularly with striped marlin. A lot of you who have been fishing for marlin, I'm sure, would have put a lure or bait out there, seen a marlin come up, do that, and it might have gone zzz, zzz on the ratchet, on the drag, and you pull your lure in, and the bait's pretty much untouched, might be a little bit squashed, but you've got this scuff mark around about 2 or 3 foot above your lure or bait. Has anybody experienced that? Yep. Okay, that's generally because your leader's too thick. The fish never ate the lure or the bait, it was actually eating the leader. Okay, so on any given day, as soon as that happens, drop your leader size. It won't be much, but you drop your leader size. Now this is the next size lure up. This is a 7-inch lure. You really should use a 100-pound on this most of the time, but you can get away with 150 on a 7-inch lure. But 100-pound really is better. Once you get up to an 8-inch lure, like the cockroaches, 150 is great. 200's over the top. You're not going to get many fish on 200. Okay. Then you go up to the larger size lures, which you basically call a 10 or a 12-inch. The size of lures really means nothing, but we'll call that a 10-inch lure. That you can put 300 on with no problem. I wouldn't go as high as 400. And any of the monster lures or bigger lures, you use 400-pound leader on the bigger lures, right up to the monster lures. And the reason I don't like using more than 400-pound is that humans start breaking before the leader does. Like you'll start pulling arms out of sockets, wrists off, arms and fingers off. So under 400-pound you might get a pretty severe cut, maybe down to the bone, but things shouldn't come apart.